Hello everyone, it's Tim from PC Gamer here. I am joined today by Paul Dennen from Direwolf Digital. Paul is a creative director on the Elder Scrolls Legends game.
That's right. Nice to meet you, Tim.
Yeah, pleasure to meet you too. Elder Scrolls Legend is a new digital CCG. It's currently in open beta, but it's pretty feature complete. You can play it right now. It's free to play. We're going to have an exciting giveaway with a PC Gamer magazine coming up soon, so look out for that. But today I'm going to get a chance to play a couple of games against Paul. He's going to hopefully not beat up on me too hard. He's promised he's brought some interesting decks, whereas I've shamelessly net decked from the internet, as is my way. So should we dive in? Well, before we dive in, we should probably say at the time we're recording this, the game has just been patched to kind of make the menus and the interface a little bit more user-friendly.
That's right.
And you're also running a new promo for people who want to get into the game where you can buy 10 packs for kind of a big discount, right, and get a guaranteed legendary card.
Yeah, guaranteed legendary and 3 alternate art cards. They're all like common cards, so it's not like pay to win or anything. It's just fun visuals.
Was that because you didn't like the art on those cards previously, or is it just...
There were a couple factors. One was, what are some good common cards? We didn't want the rarity to be too high. The other was, we don't want them to have like too complex of a special ability, because if somebody was used to a certain visual with a special ability card, swapping out a different visual for that card would have been confusing for players.
I see. Well, let's see if any of those are in your deck as I challenge you to our first match.
Sounds good.
And I am gonna pick. Okay. I should probably give a shout out here to the decks. At least 2 of the decks I'm using. I was inspired by, brackets copied from, a site called BetweenTheLanes.net, which is run by a chap called Christian Van Hoos. He's known as CVH also. He's a really good player, streams a lot, so I would encourage you, if you do like what you see here, to check him out. Promise him I'd give him a little shout out, so there's that done.
He does a good stream.
He does. Okay. So I'm going to try not to mention Hearthstone too many times, Paul, because that's probably verboten around here. But the game starts similarly. You have a mulligan phase. I'm getting rid of some of my expensive guys. Not going to tell you which ones, though.
All right. Same here.
One of the key differences, so I'm going second here. In the other game, you get like a one mana coin that you can use anytime. But in Legends, you get three hits of the elixir potion, which you can use at any time, unless the other player destroys it with it, which is actually a possibility.
Right, once per turn. Yep.
So that's I guess we'll come to why you made that decision. But like, I'm going to hear elixir out this guy, the Mournhold Traitor, who's a very nasty early drop, 4/4 for 2 mana. Seems pretty good to me.
Right.
But he has a downside. If he dies, you get a 2/1 with Guard, which is Legends equivalent of Taunt.
Right.
We're gonna find out how you deal with my 4/4. You've gone for a mono deck though, Paul, like an all blue.
I have. So I have some cards in here called the part of a cycle called ally cards, and those cards check the top of your deck to check for a color. So by focusing my deck all on one color, I've kind of optimized those cards to always work instead of relying on it being a coin flip. You mentioned the elixir, and one big difference between our game and a lot of other CCGs is the second player gets to draw an extra card compared to the first player. In this game, you don't. So the 3 uses of the magic elixir aren't quite as powerful as at first blush players might think.
Yeah, I read the kind of global win rate was almost exactly 50-50 between going first and second, because a lot of people assume that the elixir is
too good.
It's crazy powerful.
Sounds crazy good, but yeah, the win rates are over 50% for the first player, even though the second player gets 3 uses.
So you've played a Wardcrafter who's got, which is the equivalent of Divine Shield, that little shimmering ward above, which kind of sucks for my 4/4.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. So, the choice I've got here is, do I try and play another creature into the same lane on the left? Because the big thing with Legends is that you have 2 lanes on the board. So do I contest you in this lane over here on the left, or do I try and play into the cover lane on the right, which gives the creature stealth? And I think I'm going to contest you with another juicy early game minion, the Young Mammoth.
Yeah. Oh, 2 4/4s in 2 turns.
And I'm just going to dome you and hope you can't deal with this. But
normally, you stay away from players when you've got like a creature with a special ability that you want to keep it alive. But in this case, we both have reasons to contest each other. So we're just all kind of like packing into that left lane.
The right-hand lane, though, the shadow lane, which gives you the stealth/cover mechanic, is interesting because people who come to the game from Hearthstone will expect stealth to work in the way that you can't target the creatures at all. But in Legends, you can target creatures which have cover with spells and stuff, which is a big difference. So they're safe from minions on the turn they play, but they're not safe from spells. Oh, you shackled my mammoth. That's upsetting.
Yep.
Well, I guess I'm going to try and keep up the early tempo and drop the Deshaan Avenger. And she has a last gasp effect, so she drops another 3/3 into play.
If I had a silence effect, I could chop that down, but with my intelligence attribute, I'm not likely to find any silence.
Does blue run any silence at all?
Well, it doesn't have any in its card pool, so that's one of the big things. Is you get to choose 2 attributes for your decks. You can mix and match colors or attributes, but by choosing mono intelligence, I'm giving up a lot of options.
I feel like I should be giving a good display of like tactics and trading and strategy here, but instead I'm just smashing you in the face over and over again, which is we'll see if I end up getting punished for that.
That makes sense.
I popped there the first rune around your hero. As you can see, each of the heroes have 5 runes, which break on increments of 5 damage, and when they do, you draw a card. So you just drew a card then. Luckily, that card we now know didn't have the text prophecy on it, because if it had, you would have been able to play something for free.
Exactly. So because your Mournhold Trader is damaged, if I can just finish him off, I'm gonna. The drawback of that guy, because he's so big for such little magicka, is that I'm gonna get a guard. So I might as well finish him off. And what else can I do here? I think I'm gonna finish off your mammoth as well with a spell.
Well, that sucks. The mammoth was so young as well, so much to live for.
And now I've got, so this little guy here, this spider worker, I'll play him into the shadow lane, which gives him cover, but he's not really there to fight. He's there really just for sacrifices. So I sacrifice him to deal 5 damage to a random enemy creature. I'd whittle down your creatures to guarantee what I was going to hit.
Okay. So I thought I didn't have a choice here, but now I do, and it's an easy choice. So I have to trade here. There are a few cards in green, which is one of the attributes I'm playing, which allow you to move creatures between lanes. That seems like a really interesting mechanic. Is that one you kind of plan to explore a lot more? Because I was kind of the initial card pool. You're in beta now, but the initial card pool, there's only a few cards that do that.
Yep.
But it seems like an interesting piece of design space for you guys to explore.
Yeah, it helps us focus on what's unique about our game, prophecy and the 2-lane system. On the other hand, we used to have more in earlier phases of development, and we toned down on it because too much of it becomes too overwhelming strategically. So, we're certainly adding more in the future, but, we're always going to be watchful of how much complexity we throw at players.
While you were making that explanation, I played the Daring Cut Purse, who's a Pilfer +1/+1. Pilfer is a mechanic unique to Legends, where if you manage to hit the hero in the face, certain buffs get triggered. In this case, it's a stat buff. I actually piloted an all Pilfer deck almost, or a heavy Pilfer deck to Legend this month.
Very nice. Pilfer is powerful, which is why I just dealt with that guy before he could start his shenanigans.
It's pretty gimmicky, which I enjoyed a lot. People didn't see it coming. There's a card called Master of Thieves, which means all your Pilfer cards can attack twice. So it's like a kind of a wind fury for Pilfer. Yeah. And people do not always see that coming.
Yeah, so, and there's a support card, Thieves' Den, which is all of your creatures Pilfer. I don't know if you were running that card.
I had one of them. I found Thieves' Den a little bit slow. I wanted to always be playing a creature every turn in that deck.
Sure.
But I did try one of them, and it certainly won a few games. So the card I'm going to play on this turn is one of the prophecy ones we mentioned. So if that had been drawn off one of my runes had been broken, though Paul very kindly hasn't hit me in the face at all so far this game, I'd have been able to drop this bad boy for free. And that can obviously have like a big swing, because you get to play it on the opponent's turn, obviously. But sometimes you can play prophecy cards on your own turn, because there are certain cards which damage yourself, or you can do things which deliberately break one of your own runes. So I think that's interesting.
Yeah, I'm hoping I hit some prophecies here, because you've got me outnumbered by a lot here.
Well, but blue is one of the attributes in the game which does have big board clears.
Yeah.
which is
If only I had put them into my deck.
which is a significant concern of mine right now.
I'm gonna have to. All right, I'm gonna play one of the allies I was referring to. Oh, I hit it. So it checks the top of my deck. If the top card of my deck is an intelligence card, I get to draw a firebolt, and I will immediately use it to deal with this creature.
So why did you go for my guard? Why didn't you get rid of
well,
the
it gives
3/1?
me access to your 3/1 as a trade. A guard 2/2. I'm not going to throw it at your 2/2 with a ward because it's not going to kill him.
Okay.
And it also just gives me more options. Guard. I like to clear guards. I could have killed the 3/1. That might have been the best play, but I'm happy if you trade your 3/1 with my 3/3.
Yeah.
It should also be noted I'm not the best the best Legends player. I'm pretty good, but not one of our best players.
Okay, I got an interesting choice here. So I'm going to play my enormous vampire dude into the left lane. The logic seems to be if the board is clear, which it now is because I'm going to kill your dude. If the board is clear, you're kind of better off playing into the open lane. And a lot of players I've seen prefer to throw stuff into the stealth lane initially because they kind of think, oh, it's safe there, it'll be protected. But actually, if you put something into the open lane, you get to trade. You get to dictate the trades a little bit more.
Yep. There's a lot of nuance to it. Like, you also want to check what attributes your opponent's playing. If your opponent is playing strength, for example, or agility, they have access to charge creatures. So sometimes that rule of thumb that you mentioned flip-flops a bit, and you want to stay safe for a turn from charge.
The key mistake I've played here as well is I played this like I said, enormous vampire before I broke your rune. So if you've got a powerful prophecy, that might turn out to be an error. We'll find out. Oh, and sure enough, the punish is real. Oh, that is unsatisfying.
This is a tough call here, but I am going to use it to hit the vampire. I drew a lightning bolt, which is a prophecy that deals 4 damage. So I didn't get to kill your vampire, but bringing it down to 1 health could help me finish it off later.
I needed that vampire. He was key to my plan.
You still have him.
He's looking very sickly now.
Let's see. I am going to have to just buy some time here with a Winter's Grasp.
So you can see that because I've been doming you quite so brutally, you have a lot of advantage in terms of cards on me.
Right. Yeah, the engine is designed for some ebb and flow to games that way. The 2 lanes actually, encourage aggro to some extent because, as an aggro player, you can, be pounding me down in 1 lane, and then if I suddenly control that lane, well, you can just switch to the other lane with all your aggro creatures. But the runes, on the other hand, are a counterbalance to that.
Well, I mean, something that I've seen a lot of people say they like about Legends so far is that the runes and the prophecy system do seem to be a check to really aggressive decks because they do give card advantage to the person who's having their ass kicked, if you pardon my French. Was that how you guys originally envisaged the rune system? That was what you intended it to do?
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple design angles. One of them is some interaction on other players' turns. And that's why you can suddenly having the ability to interact on another player's turns means that on your turn in a direct attacking game, your decisions are not trivial. You can't just come to the right decision and make your attacks. Instead, you have to do a little bit of planning and risk management. Another part of it was helping to make games closer, give a little bit of a comeback option for players. So I know that the cards I'm playing here are kind of frustrating, but you still do have a giant army facing me.
Well, you keep shackling my board. My concern was you were going to actually clear it, but I'm going to keep putting. So this guy is, I think, one of the best cards in the game, the House Kinsman. He's a 3/3 for 3 who deals 3 damage to you when he dies and heals me for 3. So he's an insane little bundle of value. So I've got him on the board. I've got the Haunting Spirit, who, if she dies, God forbid, hopefully she won't, she's going to buff something to 3/3. So my ward guy should be quite safe from a clear. So I think I'm just gonna I might have something else I could do, but I'm going to leave it there. So this was another interesting card which I played but didn't mention. The Preserver of the Root, he comes in endurance purple decks, and purple likes to ramp up and play things off like on an accelerated mana curve. So he gets a stat buff if you've got more than 7 Magicka, which is your mana effectively. But you can go, so in Legends you can reach 12 Magicka or even more if you've got certain cards, which buff it, right?
You can go above 12, yes, if you play ramp cards that give you extra Magicka that will allow you to go above 12. In our monthly card system, every month we release a new card. The latest card actually takes advantage of that. It's a card where if you, it ramps you up 1 Magicka, and it's a support card, so it sits out of play, can't be interacted with by creatures. And if you reach 15 Magicka, it summons 2 Swamp Leviathans into play, so it's more of a control deck's dream.
I think 2 of the monthly cards have been support cards. Is that like again like a piece of design space you want to do more in?
Yeah, I mean we think it's a really fun space in card games. Everything being a creature can get kind of boring sometimes, and you can also, your strategies end up being similar. Support cards allow your strategies to, pursue different vectors without always having to worry about managing your board of creatures. I don't know if I can survive without playing another one of these annoying cards for you.
How have you drawn all 3 of the Shackle, the Super Shackle cards? There's one card which interacts with Shackle where it does damage to everything that's been shackled. The dress.
Yeah. I was hoping to be able to get him into play first, because this deck does that. But
I'm glad you didn't.
Yeah.
So now I am worried about you killing my ward guy, and then probably playing Ice Storm, which would suck, I guess. Yeah, it would suck. But there's not much I can do about it, so I'm just going to pass back to you.
Nice. Well, if I had Ice Storm, I would have used it that last turn.
Yeah.
At this point, I think I'm just showing you what my deck's all about. Even though it's not going to work.
I mean, what's the logic? Because I know you said you wanted to make sure that your allies would trigger by having an all-blue deck, but you can run, in Legends you have the standard deck size is 50, but you can run up to 75. What's the logic of, surely even in this deck you're running, it would have been worth throwing in a couple of green cards or a couple of yellow cards just that are really good? Is it ever right to run a mono deck, do you think?
It is. I mean, some players may think it's right. It'll probably be more right in the future with more card designs that I wouldn't want to give more details on. But yeah, you're right. I probably could have put in a couple green cards or purple cards or another color. But I threw this deck together to have some fun. I played this Wisp Mother. So the Wisp Mother is just a cool card that is a weird combo card. So whenever I summon a creature that costs 2 or less, I summon a copy of that creature to the other lane. So here I go.
Oh my god. She's part of one of the main 1-turn kill combos in the game, where people who run red-blue throw out these guys who do damage whenever one of your rune breaks, and it triggers a kind of Exodia-like loop of damage.
Yeah.
So thanks for not doing that. Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. I don't know that I would have had time to set it up because your forces are formidable.
So I'm not going to trade at all.
I'm on Prophecy.
And I'm just gonna hit you in the face with the Kinsman.
Not a Prophecy. You got me.
Yeah. I'm gonna just before we go, I'm gonna throw in the Wereback because I love that guy. He's a Prophecy. I want to talk about Drain later, but yeah. So there's the 2 crushing blows I've been sitting on for a while. We're off to a good start. Thank you, Paul. Going easy on me on the first one.
I'm just happy that the Wisp Mother got into play.
Yeah. I will, oh wait, I need to challenge again. So would you rather, shall I play my janky Pilfer deck? Do you want to see that?
Sure, sounds fun. I'll play another one of my fun decks before moving to my better deck.
Okay. Janky Pilfer it is. So one of the interesting things in the new patch is you mentioned, since the game's been in beta, you've made some changes to some cards. You changed Soul Rest Marshal recently and Murkwater Savage, which were 2 of the very popular green cards in the deck you might be running now here, which is green and red. The suggestion from the balance patch is that you're going to be making fairly regular, or you're not adverse to making fairly regular kind of tweaks. which seems, from my point of view, a different approach to what we've perhaps seen in other digital CCGs that tend not to intervene, and I think sometimes to the consternation of the community. Is that something you were kind of quite conscious of, that you feel like a game like this you do need to take advantage of the fact that it's digital? I can't do anything on turn one, so I'll pass.
Sure. I don't know about need to take advantage, but willing to take advantage, I guess, is how I would phrase it. Like, games like this are very complicated. There's tons of permutations of decks that can be made. We have some of the best card gamers in the world play testing this stuff before we ship it. But even with the team that we have, there's possibilities that we release things that work out differently than we expected. If we perceive a lack of health in the environment, we're gonna take advantage of this medium and make the environment healthier. We don't want to go overboard on that, because for a lot of casual players, it can be upsetting if they log in and their decks just don't work the way they used to. So we would err on the side of tweaks to cards, not revamping the designs of cards.
Yeah, I think with something like Soul Rest Marshal, which was seeing a huge amount of play, that you just change the discount, because it gives you a mana discount or a Magicka discount if you're ahead on life. You just tweak that by 1, which seemed entirely fair to me. No one got too upset by it. The card's still seeing play, so that seemed really reasonable. I do have bad news for you, though, unfortunately, Paul, because we mentioned those cards that move.
Yep.
This is one of the better ones, because it also buffs my little cat.
Yep.
Who is now going to again dome you in the face. But like you said, these pilfer cards are super high priority to remove. I kind of enjoy seeing the other player freak out as soon as they're played and just start dumping spells into them.
Yeah, if I had a spell, I'd use it. I do have an orc with charge. Unfortunately, he's not quite strong enough to take down your cut purse, but I will kill the other guy.
Well, this is... If you didn't like that cat, you're also not going to like this one.
Oh, good. Good grief.
He's a card who, when I showed Nick Delude this, and he said, "I can't believe you're running this one," because he's super fragile if he doesn't get to attack.
Yep.
But he gets to attack. He's both got Pilfer and can attack twice a turn. So he's nasty.
He is nasty, but you did mention he's fragile, so I've got a little trick here too. I've got my own movement.
Oh no.
And I played down an orc clan captain who buffs up my other creatures in the same lane. So my 1/1 witch just became a 2/1, so I can now just take out your dangerous guy.
Interesting. So I think at this point we need to keep battling in this lane. That's where we live. And I'm just going to try and gum you up for a little bit while my cat trades. No, the cat doesn't trade. The cat never trades. So I'm just going to block this other lane. That's probably a bad play, but I'm going to try and block that lane. Stop you playing anything there. Keep the cat alive. You're running green-red, though, which has got some nasty cards that can finish off wounded characters, and this card you debuffed with the Murkwater Witch you played earlier, and that actually counts as being wounded.
Correct.
Please do not now demonstrate that by playing one of those cards.
Fortunately for you, yeah, I am playing an oddball deck here. This attribute combination, strength and agility, is one of the most popular decks on the ladder. For the reasons you just mentioned, it has the ability to kind of like ping a creature and then finish it off with a card literally called Finish Off, 2-cost card that just kills anything that's wounded. But I'm running a variant, and I'll show you in a second what I'm running.
That sounds ominous for me.
So I've got this card called Hrothgar Forge. It's a support card. It normally costs 7, but because I drew it with my Thieves Guild recruit on the bonus draw, it lowered its cost by 2, so I'm able to play it here on turn 5. It will give the first creature I play every turn a random item. So I'm going to go ahead and use my elixir to play a creature to get a random item. All right. I got an item that gives me a guard, makes it a guard, so that's pretty good to block out your Fighter's Guild recruit.
You do have random items, but I've got cats, and that feels crucial.
That is a good one.
So I've done the same mistake again of like I've played the creature without waiting to see what your prophecy did. So we'll find out if I'm going to get punished twice. No, I am going to get punished twice. This is outrageous. Okay.
Ooh, good item.
Oh my god. So from nowhere, you now apparently have an 8/6.
Yep. Well, it's a tempo hit to play the Forge, and especially normally when it costs 7 magicka. But if you can survive long enough to play a bunch of creatures after deploying the Forge, you can easily swing the game. Let's see, what do I have to deal with here? Quinrall Burglar.
So all my hopes and dreams now do rest on the Burglar, who's a drain card, and drain in Legends means that however much damage you deal to the opponent, you also heal your hero for. So it's a powerful effect. He's fishing for something desperately here.
All right. Well, I've got 2 guards in play. That should do something.
Paul, I hate to be the bearer of bad tidings, but you did have 2 guards in play. I'm going to borrow guard from.
Oh.
I'm going to borrow guard from both of them with this card called Anasi, who steals keywords from other characters. You can't trust these cats.
She's so good.
Yeah, she's really good. And
especially in that circumstance.
Yeah. I guess I'm just going to dome you here. And I think I'm even going to execute this, because you're going to draw a card from it. But I don't want you, like you said, pinging my 5/5 and then finishing it off. So this is one of the interesting things. I started out very much on the left, but I've had to, because of kind of your shenanigans on the left-hand side, I've migrated my troops over onto the right-hand side. And one of the things I was wondering with Legends is, I mean, I've played quite a bit of it for the last 2 months, and you do often get into these situations where it feels like it's a race between the 2 lanes. One person has to abandon often the cover lane and kind of fill up the shadow lane. Is that something you kind of think is a problem at all in terms of the design, if too many games end in the same sort of way, or is that something you kind of look at globally when you're looking at the stats of games,
Sure.
like how games are ending?
It would be a problem if too many games feel the same.
Yeah.
We hope that that's not the case. We don't think that's the case based on our analytics. Migrating to the shadow lane is a natural, it's okay. I think that happens more often because an aggro deck, I mean, that's a tool for aggro decks to win in this game. The fact that the other player is getting more cards than you, we needed to give the aggro decks some juice towards the end of the game to reach, their opponent's final health total, drop them to 0. So the shadow lane just provides that kind of reach naturally. So we think that that's okay.
Do you guys internally? Oh, this card. Do you guys have like an internal sense of like what you consider a healthy balance between aggro and control sort of is? He says, while you're playing an enormous giant on the board.
That got an item that gave it drain too. So
Yeah.
hopefully I can survive here.
Feels like bad news for me.
Yeah, we want all strategies to have a place, I guess, is our general philosophy. Over time, we may find that, there's an ebb and flow to, if a certain expansion's theme veers towards something where, aggro makes more sense for that theme, then maybe aggro will be more prevalent during that expansion time period. But other than that, I think, and even in that case, like all types of strategies have a place in Legends. So I found a werebat. So can I survive? Can you finish me off here?
We're about to find out.
Uh-oh.
I love this guy, the Cliff Racer, the Flying Parrot. Oh my god. What's this?
It's another...
How many prophecies have you got in this deck?
About 60% of the deck is prophecies,
Yeah, nice,
probably.
nice. Sadly not enough.
No, you have 3 damage.
I'm
Crushing
afraid
Blow.
so, yeah.
Yep.
Crushing
Sure.
Blow is a really good card, it turns out.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
and it's neutral, so it's accessible to all decks.
But if you had, I mean, I had like a pretty perfect draw then with the flying pterodactyl. But if you had survived that turn, you had 2 creatures on the board who would have both dealt damage to me and healed up. So that would be potentially a big swing turn. Right.
Yeah,
now.
I think that was your last chance. If you didn't win on that turn, you were almost certainly not going to win the game.
That's my janky pilfer deck. It basically wins by turn 7, or it doesn't win at all. Like it's a blowout deck.
Yeah, that's a great matchup against my deck, which almost never wins before, say, turn 9.
Have you got time for one more?
Yeah, absolutely.
Got to restore your honor.
We'll see.
What should we go for this time? I think we will try this. Okay. So the deck I'm going to play, I'll give you a teaser. Is you've been playing so many prophecies against me. I want to try and get my revenge and play a few prophecies as well. And it runs almost 50% prophecies, which is
nice.
It's a deck fairly common on the ladder. And one thing I wanted to ask is like, as you go into like releasing expansions and more content, isn't there a risk that it'll be possible to have a density of prophecies in your deck that's kind of crazy? I know a lot of the cards are theoretically overcosted, but some are pretty good. Like Werebat's really good. Lightning Bolt's fine to kind of play on its own. How are you going to balance that going forward to prevent all decks from becoming effectively prophecy decks?
That's a good question. I think that we have to be careful there. And we may have to dip into space, anti-prophecy space for other players to leverage. But in general, we've tried, 100% prophecy decks ourselves, or close to, during, pre-release development. And, we made sure that it wasn't too powerful, too annoying. And you're right, it's something that we have to keep an eye on.
So you're playing yellow-purple, which is a combination of attributes that's renowned for playing tokens and lots of little guys who then get buffed up and beat you down. I'll tell you right now, I hate that strategy, so I'm quite upset that you've chosen it.
This is my favorite deck.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, if you play there's a support card that's usually run in this deck called Divine Fervor, which is my most hated card in the game. Nerf please, etc. So we'll see whether you got one of those. Oh, you got this guy. So this is kind of one of those situations where I already feel kind of slightly compelled to abandon the left-hand field lane, because I can't challenge this guy. He's going to 2-for-1 me if I play anything there, so I'm going to have to move over to the shadow lane. So in terms of what's next for the game, I think Tom from our team spoke to Pete Hines from Bethesda at PAX, and he was talking about how the game was kind of pretty much ready to be in full release. You guys were just working on the phone and tablet versions, and that would be when it was kind of moved into full release. Is there any sense of the timeline on that? Because at the moment, like what we're playing, to me, I've been playing it, like I say, for 2 months. It feels close to finished. It's fully featured pretty much, except and there's chat functionality still to come in at some point, but everything works.
Yeah, the social features need some final tuning, but yeah, I think Pete said recently that we could call it finished if we wanted to, but we're just we know that we're not there at tablet space, so we're doing platform work more than game work itself. So for PC players, they're getting like a full could be released experience. It's just the fact that it's not ready for the other platforms that we're calling it beta. And I think I actually just released a letter from the devs yesterday on the forums that, if I can remember the wording properly, it was something like within the next month or two, we expect to be on Android and iOS tablets, but we're expecting to have a couple weeks to a few weeks of time doing a regional test just to make sure that everything's all tucked in properly.
And once you hit that point, without I know you're not going to announce like new expansions and stuff while we're playing, but like, can you give me a sense of like what your approach to new content is going to be like? Because one of the things with these sorts of games is they feel like they need regular injections. It's interesting that you guys do a new card every month, so that's a small way of injecting that kind of change that can sort of shift the meta and whatever. But Can you give me like a sense of what the frequency of updates you might be looking at would be? Could we expect stuff every couple of months, or
every couple of months might it's probably too aggressive, because quality in a game like this, again with the myriad combinations of decks and things that you have to check, that would probably drive us insane, unless it was just a few cards. But we are looking more towards more of a traditional model where the monthly cards are just a nice little nod to something to look forward to every month, a reward for progressing on the ladder every month. But it's not quite enough to like totally flip-flop the environment and make players go like, what am I going to do now with all of these tools? So we still do plan on releasing sets of cards every once in a while. This being, the fact that we're not out on tablets yet, leads us to want to like hold back. We're working on our first expansion, thinking about the second expansion already, but I'm not quite sure what the release schedule is going to be. Bethesda has a lot to say about those things as well.
Can't believe the young mammoth up here's turned on me. He was my guy earlier.
Well, you've lined up a kill against him, so that's good.
Yeah, this is a great card, the Fighters Guild Recruit. He's a prophecy again, and he has lethal, which is an attribute that's used quite a bit, especially in green decks, but in Legends generally, which means it'll kill anything that's damaged by it, as long as it hasn't got a ward. Let's see if you can deal with that. One of the things I was interested in is, because the game is in open beta now, but was in closed beta before, but it was kind of quite secretive while it was in open beta. Do you kind of regret that now? Because it feels like I'd have loved to have seen people jump in straight away and start streaming it and making videos about it, whereas it felt like kind of by having them kind of locked up in NDAs and stuff, it prevented that a little bit.
You mean during closed beta?
When it was in closed beta.
Yeah. I don't know that I regret that, because there were some features that just didn't look that good. The story, the campaign itself wasn't done visually. So I think it was a way to just, when people can see it, to put our best foot forward.
Sure. Yeah, the story mode's interesting. It guides you through, I think it's about 20 missions with kind of, some have like bespoke effects and stuff. You end up getting your starter decks by playing that. It seems like it was very well received. Everyone seemed to like it.
Yeah. It's a very, very generous rewards in it, because we want new players to feel like they have multiple viable decks to choose from when they start to play against other players.
Well, because as we touched on earlier, the decks can be from 50 to 75 cards in size, which is, so you're obviously going to need a bigger collection full stop to play more copies, because you can play 3 copies of cards, except for the unique legendaries. Oh, there you go. Here's my prophecy at last. And the game, I think, is, in my opinion anyways, is pretty generous in terms of how it dishes out. You can get cards just for winning 3 games. You get kind of gold and magic soul gems fairly regularly. But then I guess the flip side is some of the legendaries you can run 3 copies of, which can be very expensive if a lot of like I say, I'm a shameless net decker, and some of the most powerful decks run a lot of these things. Is that something you kind of, how do you balance that internally? Because I think I sometimes see people being a little bit put off by like, oh, do I need 3 Daggerfall mages? That's a lot of gems for me.
We balance it by not making all of those cards 3 of, necessarily. Like a lot of the more expensive non-unique legendaries, you're not likely to want more than 1 or 2 copies of. And we are the fact that you earn a lot of soul gems and the rates for crafting them are fairly low. I don't know. We feel like it's fair. I think that as we look at the data and see players accumulating soul gems and crafting decks, we feel like players are able to craft very viable, fun, and powerful decks over time.
When you're looking at the data, don't send the receipt to my other half, because she'll be shocked at how many packs I've bought. So I feel like I've just about got you on the back foot, but I'm running out of cards, which is let's see what your old friend the Mournhold Trait has got to say about things.
Yeah, this looks like you're running the Prophecy Assassin deck.
Very much so.
Yeah, the Corey Millhouse deck, one of the more famous beta players.
Yeah, he's a real innovator when it comes to decks.
He is. I like him.
I like the fact that Legends is already starting to build up its community of kind of streamers and YouTube creators.
So here's that card you don't like. Divine Fervor. It's a support card, so it's uninteractable by creatures, and it just buffs my creatures up +1/+1 for the rest of the game. There are effects that you can run in your deck to take care of it, to just remove it.
Not very many.
No, but there's a neutral one. So any deck has access to at least one card.
This is a classic yellow-purple player trying to justify Divine Fervor to me. Okay, can we deal with it? I think we'll just do that and start to panic. I think the thing with Divine Fervor is, of the support cards, it's the one that it's a flat buff that doesn't require you to do much else other than, I mean, I know what the counterpoint is, that you need to have a board, but the value it gets over the course of a whole game is so big, and there are, like, I feel like slightly too few ways to interact with it.
That may change in the future. You know, you might find more ways to interact with support cards.
And it's interesting because supports, you can run, they're not like a weapon in Hearthstone, you can run multiple supports. You can have like several of these things in play at once. That's not me encouraging you to play another one of them, by the way.
Right. Actually, you can only have 6, I believe.
Okay. Six seems like enough.
It's more than enough. Yeah. I've never hit the limit.
Okay. Well, my hand is absolutely terrible now.
Excellent. Maybe I can win one.
Yeah, we'll see. Let's see if our friend the Wereback can carry the day. So you now enter this interesting sort of position where it's because you know my deck runs a lot of prophecies, you have to think quite hard about whether you want to break my runes or not, or whether you want to try and build up a big board and kill me all in one turn.
That's right.
Which does seem to be the plan here.
So I'm going to tip off now how much you've been frustrating me, because I've been holding onto this card for a while. It's called Golden Saint.
Oh, I hate Golden Saint.
It's a creature that when you play it, if you have more health than your opponent, it copies itself into the other lane. And yeah, for the last few turns, I've been just a little bit away from being able to get the health lead. In this turn, I was able to tie you, but I'm just not willing to risk holding onto it anymore.
Oh, so if it's a draw, it doesn't work. Well, none of this is good for me. In fact, all of it is bad. So this could be slightly more grindy than our other games, although I've got one card and you've got 2 dudes on the board. This feels like bad times. I haven't used my elixir, weirdly.
Sometimes happens where you draw a card that you didn't expect. You don't need the extra magicka.
Oh, this guy's good. Card draw is at a real premium in Legends. So this guy's a 4/2 normally, he's a 5/3 because you buffed him, who draws a card if one of the runes have been broken. And you have a lot of mechanics like that that are interesting. So like you just mentioned, Golden Saint checks how much health I've got. This guy checks whether a rune's been broken.
Yeah. There's, sort of the more health you have cards, internally we call them rune masters, because they used to be, if you have more runes than your opponent, are kind of a natural tension against the rune system itself. Because players could fall into a tendency of thinking, well, if I just don't attack my opponent, they won't get extra cards, and then I can accumulate all this power and then finish them off. By injecting into the card pool these rune masters that check for more health than your opponent, there's always that tension of, well, you're ahead. You've got, let's say you have 2 creatures in play. You might as well attack if you can now bring your health total above your opponent's, because you'll block out a lot of those powerful cards. So I am just going to attack you now. Let's see what kind of prophecies you can draw.
Well, no more than 3 is no prophecy there. No prophecy there.
Come on, draw a prophecy. Nope.
Come on. You've got your guys in the back there working on the code, deleting all my prophecy cards.
I'm going to drop this Bone Colossus, even though he's not as good as he normally is, because he normally fills a whole lane with little skeletons. In this case, there's not much room for skeletons.
My colleague Evan, this is his favourite card. He calls him the Skeleton Boss, which is very much what he is. And,
he's an example of a card that we were willing to change. We changed him for more aesthetic reasons than power balance reasons. He now only buffs friendly skeletons instead of all undead.
Well, heartbreakingly, Corey Millhouse has let me down and my race is run.
So if you don't mind, I'm just going to...
No, please do, Paul. I want you to enjoy yourself.
Should I drop a giant dragon or play a Dawn's Wrath to destroy all creatures in a lane? I think a giant dragon sounds a little more fun. So.
Oh my god.
Oh, and your last gasp went off. That ended up breaking one of my runes, and I drew a prophecy, which gave me a piercing javelin to finish off that final creature. So that was fun.
Paul, I was such a gracious winner. I thought I'm not sure you've behaved the same way.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, so that's Elder Scrolls Legend. Thanks for joining us, Paul. It's something we're gonna keep covering on the site and look to hear about more from it in the future.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure.